She was not always a slave. Long ago her name had meaning. She belonged to a proud alien tribe called the Velieri, known for their honor and strength. She was fast, smart, and brave. Her hair was silver like the moons of her homeworld, and her eyes were the color of deep oceans. Many in her tribe believed she would become a leader one day. She believed it too. But that was before she met him. He was from another tribe. He was charming, powerful, and said all the right words. He told her she was special. He told her she was different. She trusted him. She gave him her heart. She thought he loved her. But it was all a lie. Soon after their bonding, everything changed. He grew cold, controlling, and cruel. He said her voice was too loud, her mind too sharp. He wanted her to obey, not think. When she refused to kneel, he beat her. When she tried to leave, he locked her away. No one helped. No one stopped him. Her own people stayed silent, afraid of his power. One night, he sold her. She was taken in a cage, thrown into a ship like cargo. Her wrists were bruised, her pride shattered. They shaved her head. They erased her name. She became a number on a screen lot 45B. Her tribe never came for her. Her old life disappeared. The slave market was cold and loud. Many aliens walked past her, some laughing, some spitting. Others touched her face like she was not alive. One even offered extra credits if she screamed. She did not scream. She had no voice left. She was passed between owners. One used her for cleaning. Another made her serve drinks while wearing nothing. One kept her in a cage even when she slept. Years passed. She forgot the stars. She forgot the sky. She forgot herself until she was sold again. But this time something was different. The place was not a palace. It was a dusty repair shop on a small planet. She looked around. Old tools, broken machines, quiet air. It didn't feel like the other places. And the man who stood there, he looked nothing like the others. He was a human, tall, with dark hair and tired eyes. His name was Joel. When he saw her, he didn't smile or stare. He didn't say she was beautiful. He only asked, "Are you hungry?" She didn't answer. She expected him to grab her or push her to the floor, but he didn't move. He just walked away and came back with warm food and clean water. He placed it in front of her and stepped back. No force, no orders. She waited. Maybe it was a trick. Maybe he would hit her if she ate too fast. But her stomach screamed, so she picked up the spoon. It was the first warm food she had tasted in months. Joel gave her a room. It had a bed, a real bed. He gave her soft clothes and a clean towel. She stared at the mirror for hours, touching her shaved head, her thin arms. She didn't recognize herself. He didn't ask questions. He didn't touch her. He didn't even lock the door. She tested him. She dropped a cup on purpose. He only sighed, "Be careful, that's glass." She left the door open at night. He didn't chase her. She sat outside under the stars, trying to remember how they used to make her feel. One night, she spoke. "My name?" It was Lyra. Joel looked up from his workbench. "Lyra," he repeated, as if it were the most beautiful word in the universe. That night, she cried quietly. Not from pain, but from the strange feeling that maybe, just maybe, someone still saw her as more than a slave. She wasn't ready to trust him. Not yet. But something inside her had shifted. Something broken had moved. She was still afraid, still haunted. But in that small room on a quiet planet, under the care of a quiet human, she felt something she hadn't felt in years. Safe. And somewhere deep inside her heart, the fire that had gone out so long ago started to glow again. The moment Joel laid eyes on her, something felt wrong. She stood in the corner of the transport cage, silent, head down, her thin hands chained. Other buyers asked for strong backs or beauty. Joel hadn't planned to buy anyone. He came looking for spare machine parts. But when the trader offered her at a final discount, Joel saw more than just a broken alien girl. He saw someone who didn't belong in chains. When the cage opened, she didn't move. Joel didn't shout. He didn't drag her. He just waited and said gently, "You can walk if you want." She stepped forward like a shadow. On the way to his home, she sat curled in the transport seat, still silent. She didn't ask where they were going. She didn't care. In her mind, all places led to the same pain. But Joel didn't speak much either. He kept his eyes on the stars and said only one thing, "You're safe now." She had heard that before. His home, a small old repair shop hidden on the edge of a quiet desert town, he guided her inside and gave her water. Then, without another word, he walked away. No orders, no whips, no cold floors. She didn't understand it. She explored the room. Slowly, there were clean sheets, clothes, even a towel folded with care. A small light hummed in the corner. It was warm. She sat on the bed but didn't sleep. Her body stayed ready for commands, punishment, pain, but none came. Just silence. The next day, Joel brought food. She backed into the corner, expecting the spooner plate to be thrown or the spoon shoved in her mouth like before. But Joel set the tray down and said, "I don't know what you eat, but this is what I had." Then he walked away. She waited an hour before touching the plate. Every morning he left something: food, water, sometimes clean socks. Not once did he touch her. Not once did he lock the door. He spent most of his time fixing old machines, welding, muttering to broken drones. She stayed quiet, watching. Then one day she walked into his workshop. Her voice was low and cracked, unused. "Why did you buy me?" Joel didn't turn right away. He kept working on the engine in front of him. "I didn't buy you," he said. "I freed you." "No one frees slaves," she said. Her tone was flat, her face unreadable. Joel stood up, wiped his hands, and looked her in the eyes. "I'm not everyone." She didn't know what to say. She returned to her room and closed the door, but she didn't lock it. That night, she cleaned the dish before leaving it in the kitchen. The next morning, he left a book on her bed. It was in a simple trade language. "Your kind speaks this, right?" The note read. She opened it. It was about ships in flight. She remembered once knowing these things. She read it cover to cover in one sitting. Something began to shift. Days passed. She spoke more. Short words at first, then longer ones. She asked about the machines he fixed. She touched tools again. Her hands, once used for labor, began to remember purpose. One afternoon, Joel found her repairing an old drone wing. She had no plan, just instinct, but it worked. The drone powered on. Wobbly, but alive. Joel whistled low. "You've got the touch." She didn't smile, but her eyes glowed just a little. "Do you want to leave?" Joel asked her later, watching her stare at the sunset. She looked at him, confused. "You're free now. You can go." "No one ever asked me that before." She said, "Well, I'm not no one." Silence passed between them. And for the first time in many cycles, it was a peaceful silence. She didn't answer that night, but she didn't leave either, and deep down, she started to wonder not what this human wanted from her, but why he wanted nothing at all. A deep violet, a color of confusion and emotion in her species. She looked down quickly, afraid she had done something wrong. But Joel just smiled and returned to work. Later that night, as she lay in her bed, she touched the side of her face. It still felt warm. In her dreams, there were no cages. In the following days, others began to notice her presence. A trader passing through called her the human's pet. Joel's jaw tightened, but he said nothing. She noticed. And for the first time, someone's anger felt protective, not possessive. That night, as they closed the shop, She turned to him. "I don't want to leave," she said softly. "I know," Joel replied. "But if I ever do, it will be because I choose to." Joel nodded. "That's all I ever wanted for you." She looked at the stars again. But this time, they didn't remind her of what she'd lost. They reminded her of what she could still become. And for the first time in a long, long while, she smiled without fear. The wind changed that morning. Lyra was outside, helping Joel adjust the solar panels. She had just started to hum softly, an old tune from her childhood she thought she had forgotten, when the air shifted. Cold, heavy, wrong, Joel noticed too. He stood up slowly, his eyes scanning the sky. Then they heard it, a deep rumble. Not thunder. Engines. A black ship tore through the clouds, sleek and sharp like a predator. It circled once, then landed just beyond the ridge, silent but full of purpose. Dust rose in thick waves as its legs touched down. Lyra froze. Her breath stopped. Her knees weakened. She knew that ship, every dent, every mark. That was his ship. Her ex. The one who had stolen her freedom, her name, her voice. The one who had broken her spirit and sold her like trash. Joel saw her face drain of color. He stepped in front of her. "Who is it?" he asked. She didn't answer. Her lips trembled. "He found me." The ship door hissed open. Out walked a tall, armored male with sharp eyes and a cruel smirk. Behind him were two slave hunters in thick gear, electric whips at their sides. The armored one stepped forward and spoke loudly. "I've come for what's mine." Joel stood still. "There's nothing for you here." The man laughed. "She's not human. She's not free. She's registered under my name." Joel looked at Lyra, whose hands were shaking. Her eyes filled with terror. "She's not yours," Joel said, voice calm but firm. "She was marked," the ex replied. "She obeyed me once. She will again." "No," Joel said. The slave hunter beside the ex activated a scanner. "ID confirms," he said, "that female's property status is active. Under Code 27C of interspecies ownership laws, she must be returned." Joel stepped closer. "You'll have to go through me." The ex smiled wider. "Gladly." Suddenly one of the hunters reached out. Before Lyra could react, the whip cracked, but not toward her. Joel moved. The whip hit his shoulder. He didn't cry out. He didn't fall. He took the blow, grabbed a nearby pipe, and swung it into the hunter's chest, sending him flying. Chaos exploded. The second hunter rushed forward, but Lyra screamed and threw herself between him and Joel. "Leave him alone." Joel shoved her behind him and fought with everything he had. He was outnumbered, outarmed. But he didn't stop. Lyra had seen many fights. She had fought many herself. But never had she seen someone fight like this. Not for money. Not for pride. But for her, Joel's body took hit after hit. His lip bled. His arm went limp. But his eyes never wavered. And when the ex raised his blaster toward Joel's chest, Lyra did something she never thought she could do again. She screamed and charged. Her body hit the ex full force. The blaster flew from his hand. He stumbled, shocked. She grabbed the shock rod from one of the fallen hunters and slammed it into his chest. He fell. Breathing heavy, heart racing, Lyra dropped the rod. Joel collapsed to his knees beside her. Blood ran down his arm. She touched his face. "Why?" she cried. "Why did you fight for me?" Joel looked up at her, pain in every breath. "Because you're not a thing. You're you, and no one owns you." Lyra stared at him. She had waited her whole life for someone to say those words, not just to free her body, but to free her soul. And now, covered in blood, bruises, and shaking, she realized someone finally had. Smoke rose from the broken machines. The desert wind carried the scent of blood and fire. Lyra knelt beside Joel, his shirt torn, chest rising and falling with effort. He was still breathing, but barely. His face was pale. The fight had taken everything from him. Her hands hovered over his wounds, unsure what to do. She had healed others before. In war, in slavery. But this time, her hands shook not from fear, but from something deeper. She couldn't lose him. Behind her, the ex lay unconscious, bound in chains that once belonged to her. The hunters had fled, crawling back to their ship, dragging shame and bruises behind them. None had expected a human to fight like that, especially not for someone like her, Lyra. Looked around. The shop was half destroyed. Joel's tools, his home, everything he had built with care was in ruins, and he hadn't even blinked. He'd chosen her over all of it. "Stay with me," she whispered. "You idiot." "You stubborn, foolish human," Joel groaned. His eyes opened slowly, blood on his lips. "You're beautiful when you're angry," he muttered. She gasped, tears spilling down her cheeks. "You're bleeding everywhere, and that's what you say?" He smiled weakly. Couldn't waste the moment. She pressed a cloth to his side. "Stop talking. Save your strength." But her voice cracked. For the first time in her life, she was afraid of losing someone, not because she was ordered to care, not because it was duty, because she wanted to care, because she chose it. Help arrived hours later. A neighbor Joel had once repaired a generator, foresaw the smoke, and called the local medic team. They came in silence, unsure of what they were walking into. Lyra stood at the entrance like a guardian. "No questions," she warned. "Help him." They did. Joel was taken to the med station on the edge of town. He stayed unconscious for 2 days. Lyra never left his side. She cleaned the cuts on his face, replaced the 4 bags, even sang a quiet lullaby in her language, one her mother used to sing long ago. When Joel finally woke up, she was there sitting on a chair, chin resting on her arm, asleep. He didn't speak. He just looked at her for a long time, as if seeing her for the first time. When she woke and saw his eyes open, she smiled through tears. "You're awake." Joel nodded slowly. "Are we alive?" "Barely," she replied. He reached out weakly. She held his hand. "You fought for me," she whispered. Joel blinked. "You fought for yourself." She didn't deny it. "I fought because you showed me I was worth something." He squeezed her hand gently. "You always were." She lowered her head, forehead against his. "Then why was I the only one who couldn't see it?" Joel smiled. "Sometimes it takes someone else to remind us who we are." In that small moment, no words could carry the weight of what passed between them. Not promises, not titles, just truth. The rage Joel had shown in that battle was not for power. It was not for revenge. It was for love, raw, fierce, and pure. And the galaxy would soon learn that no slave collar, no chain, no law could hold back the fury of a human who had chosen to protect someone with his whole heart, especially when that someone finally believed she deserved it. The stars looked different now. For years, Lyra had stared at them through cages, bars, windows she couldn't open. They had been reminders of everything taken from her home, her name, her freedom. But now, she looked up at them from the roof of Joel's rebuilt workshop, her arms folded calmly over her knees. This time, she wasn't wondering what was out there. She was deciding what came. Next. Joel was healing, slowly. His body carried the weight of every blow he had taken for her. Bandages still wrapped his ribs, and his steps were careful. But the fire in his eyes hadn't dimmed. He didn't ask her for anything. Not thanks, not loyalty, not love. And that was why she stayed. One morning, as the sun rose over the dry hills, Joel found her in the workshop. She had taken apart one of the broken drones and rebuilt it into something better, sleeker. Faster, smarter. You fixed it, he said, impressed. She didn't look up. No, she said. I chose to. Joel smiled. I know. She turned. To him, eyes steady. I'm not a slave. Not anymore. You never were, he replied softly. Lyra stepped closer, lifting her chin. Her scars were still there on her arms, her back, in her memories. But they no longer held power over her. I don't know what I am yet, she said. But I know what I'm not. I'm not his. I'm not theirs. I'm not for sale. Jowl nodded. You're free. You get to decide. For a long moment, she stood in silence. Then she did something that surprised even herself. She reached for his hand. Not as someone who needed to be saved, but as someone choosing to stand beside him. I want to stay, she said. Not because I owe you anything, but because I want to. Joel's voice was low. Then stay, as my partner. She raised an eyebrow. Not as your slave? He shook his head with a soft laugh. You'd throw me off a roof if I ever tried. Her lips curled. Probably. In the days that followed, things changed around. Word of the fight spread. The slave traders didn't speak openly. They were too ashamed, but the whispers reached other ears. People started arriving. Quietly. Broken aliens. Lost ones. Survivors. Ones who had been used, discarded, forgotten. They came not to beg, but to learn. And Lyra met each one. She didn't tell them to be strong. She didn't tell them to be brave. She just showed them what it looked like. She taught one girl how to use a tool, helped a wounded male walk again, sat beside a small child who still cried in his sleep. One evening, a visitor asked her, "Who gave you the right to lead?" Lyra stared at the stars again, then answered softly, "No one gave it. I took it back." She wasn't the same girl who had once been chained in a cage, silent and empty. That girl was gone. What stood now was a woman with power in her, steps and purpose in her voice. She wasn't looking for a savior anymore. She was the fire now. And no one would ever sell her again. It began as a quiet rumor. A human had fought off slave hunters for a single alien girl. He bled for her, nearly died for her. And she, once sold like trash, now walked with pride, not chains. No brand marked her skin. No collar gripped her throat. They said the girl chose to stay. That simple truth rippled like fire through the black silence of space. In the dark corners of the galaxy, where hope was rare and freedom was expensive, those rumors grew louder. Whispered in mining camps, murmured in slave pens. Painted on walls in secret code. She was owned. Now she owns herself. The human did not take her. He stood beside her. Love is stronger than chains. Joel didn't care for the attention. He still ran his shop, fixed his machines, and cooked meals too big for one person, because now there were many mouths to feed. His quiet desert home had become something else. A place of healing, of second chances. Lyra stood at the center of it all. Visitors came, some with wounds, some with nothing left but breath. She listened. She never pitied them, only reminded them, "You're still alive. You still choose." Once a young alien boy approached her and asked, "Are you really the one from the story?" She smiled gently. "Which story?" "The one where a slave girl became a leader." She knelt and touched his shoulder. "That's not the story. The real one is this: a girl remembered who she was, and the world couldn't stop her after that. Galactic authorities eventually sent messengers, curious, nervous. They asked if she was creating a rebellion. "No," she said. "I'm creating a home." They didn't know how to answer that. And still, more came. Former slaves, outcasts, even humans who had been rejected by their own kind. They found peace here, found work. found meaning. And they followed her not as a queen or a commander, but as someone who had walked through hell and come out unburned. One night, Joel found Lara standing in the workshop doorway, staring at the stars. "Do you regret staying?" he asked. Softly, she turned to him, her silver hair now long again flowing in the breeze. "I don't just stay," she said. "I belong here." Joel stepped closer. "You always belonged." She looked at him then, and in her eyes there was no fear, no pain, only love, real, quiet, unshakable. "I was sold," she whispered, "but you never bought me. You saw me, all of me." Joel brushed her cheek with his fingers. "You were never something to own." She leaned into his touch. "You didn't rescue me. You reminded me I was worth rescuing. They didn't need vows or grand words. The galaxy had already written their love into the stars. And far beyond the little desert planet, across empires and warships, across slave markets and black zones, a new kind of legend spread, not of war, not of blood, but of a human who chose love over power, and of a girl once shattered, who rose again stronger, freer, and truly loved.